Now we are going to discuss one of the most important concept in object-oriented programming, which is none other than inheritance. So what is inheritance in Java? Inheritance in Java is a mechanism in which one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of the parent object. So let me give you this example. For example, being a son, I am allowed to have the access of the house that was built by my father, right? So that is what it means. So because I am the son to my father, let's say I'm the only son to my father, so I have got all the rights for the properties that are belongs to my parent, right? So that is what it means. So inheritance in Java is a mechanism in which one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of the parent object. So the idea behind the inheritance in Java is that you can create new classes that are built upon existing classes. So for this, let me give you the example. As I said that being the only son from my parents, I have all the rights to have the properties that are belongs to my parents. Does that mean that I'm not allowed to buy some more properties? No. If you want to buy some more properties, you can still buy them. Same time, you can have the properties that are belongs to your parents as well. That is what it means. Then finally, when you inherit from an existing class, you can reuse the methods and fields of the parent class. Moreover, you can add new methods and fields in your current class also. So for this, let me give you the small example for you for the better understanding. Let's say my father built a two-bedroom house. So that house is mine, right? In case if I want to extend that two-bedroom house into a three-bedroom house, there is no need for me to destroy the house. I can still have the two-bedroom house. Maybe I can extend the portion from that existing house, right? So same applies here in inheritance. Maybe you can reuse the methods and fields of the parent class, such as like you can still use that two-bedroom house, but by the same time you can still extend. Maybe if you have money, if you think that that house is too small, there is no need for you to destroy the house. Instead, you can add a portion. Maybe you can extend the house to the three-bedroom house. That is what it means. So this is what inheritance in Java. So what is the use of this inheritance in Java? The most important use of inheritance is code reusability. As I said, that you can use the existing methods and the fields of the parent class. So what does that mean? There is no need for you to create a program every time, because you are going to make use of the code that was created earlier, so that from that code we can make one or two changes, so that that code can be reusable, right? So what is the use of this code reusability? So when you reuse the code, you can save the time and cost, right? That is the reason, that is the most important thing in the development. So let's say you are saving 1 hour time. You are saving maybe $100,000 by using the same code. It is actually quite helpful than starting everything from the scratch, right? So that is why we use inheritance in object oriented programming. So let me show you how the inheritance in Java can be used in programming with a practical demonstration. Before we go there, let me show you the syntax for us to use the inheritance concept in Java. The syntax is this. We are going to use the class as a keyword. Then this is where you need to pay attention. So when I say this is where you need to pay the attention, so class here, we are going to use the subclass name here. Subclass, I would say this is a subclass or a child class, right? So we are going to use the keyword as a extend. So this is most important thing. So we are going to use the class as a keyword. Then here we are going to have the child class. Then this is the keyword that we use in inheritance to inherit the properties from the parent class to the child class. I hope it's clear, right? So here when I say superclass name, this one we can call them as a superclass, or we can call them as a base class, or simply we can say them as parent class. So inside we are going to have the methods and fields. So this is a basic syntax for us to use the concept of inheritance. So let me show you the practical example for the better understanding, so that you would understand how the inheritance in Java would work to make use of the code reusability. So here what I'm going to do, let me open my text editor. Here we go. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to, let's say I want to create a new project. So now I'm going to the file, click new project, select the Java application here, click next. So here the project name can be anything. Let me say, since it's an inheritance, let me call the project name as inheritance. Here, if you have noticed one thing, I don't want to create the main class because I want to create it manually, so that you know how to create manually to create a class, right? So I'm going to click finish. If you can see them here in the left side, there is a project has been created with a name called inheritance. So go to the source package, click here, then here is a default package, select that one, right click, go to new, come and select Java class. So here is a place where you're going to create the name of the class, right? So here in the name of the class, what I can say, let me call this class as a bird. So I'm going to click finish. So this one is going to create a class name called bird, right? So if you want to have an access specifier as public, you can have it. Otherwise, if you want to remove the access specifier, it's too okay, because it's going to be default, right? When it comes to the default package, we have learned about access specifier in the previous tutorial. If you want, you can go and watch that video so that you can understand how the default package, how the default access specifier would work in Java. So here, let's say this is a parent class. So this parent class, I'm going to have some fields. When I say fields, I'm sure that you remember. Fields is nothing but the data members, where we are going to define the data types. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to say public. Let me call this one as a string data type. I'm going to give some name. So here, since it's a bird, so I'm just call this one as a reproduction. Okay, so the reproduction of the bird is usually egg, right? So that's the most cases. Then let me have another field. What we can have, maybe, okay, public is an access specifier. I can have string data type again. Maybe let me call this one as a outer covering. So this outer covering for the birds is a feather, right? Or feathers, whatever, right? So these are all the two. What's the error here? Oh, it's an uppercase. It has to be a lowercase, right? It's a keyword. So these are the two data fields. If I want to have a method, so we can have them, so as I showed in the last explanation for the object and classes. We can even have a methods. Let me call this method as a void. Usually for the birds, what we can say, okay, let me call this one as a fly up as a method, right? So within this fly up method, I'm just going to print the message system.out.println. Inside I can say maybe flying up. Right, the bird is flying up. Maybe I can have another method. Let me copy and paste them down there. This one I would say fly down. Maybe this one is flying down, right? So this is a class bird. It has got fields. Even if you don't have this public, is there anything wrong? Nothing wrong, right? You can still have them as a string data type followed by name of the variable and the value. It's still okay, right? So it's not necessarily, or if you want to have a public as an access specifier, is still okay, right? But if you use private, remember you cannot access this data member out of this class unless if you use the method with a public where you can able to access these data members. We will see the example in later part of the video so that you will know what if I use private here. I'm sure that you have learned in C++, if you have learned it before. If you use private as a data members in the method, you have to make sure that you can able to access the value of these particular data members. We will see them in later examples. So as for now, what you need to do, we have created a class with a name called bird, and this class has got two data members, or we can say these two fields together with the two methods. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another class let me call this class as maybe any bird. Let me call this one as an ego. Okay, this is another class. So inside this class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another two fields. Let me call this as a string, then name is a data type. I'm just going to assign some value for this. So because since it's an ego, so let me call this one as an ego, right? Maybe let me have another data type. Let me have this one as a different integer. Let me call this one as a lifespan for ego. I don't know exactly, so let me make it as 20 years. Is it too much? Okay, let me make it as, okay, let it be 20 years, right? So these are all the two data fields that are found in this class name called ego. Okay, now what I'm going to do, we have got two different classes, but according to the inheritance, if you check the syntax here, this is a syntax which says class. If you want to inherit the properties from the parent class to the child class, you have to use class. This subclass is nothing but the child class. Then we have to use the keyword as extend. Then from there, we are going to access the superclass. In this case, superclass is the parent class. So when you come here, let's consider this ego is the child class and this bird is a parent class, let's say. So in case if you want to access the methods and the fields from this class bird into this class ego, what you need to do, you have to use the keyword as extends. Remember, you have to use the keyword as extend, then followed by you have to use the name of the parent class. So what is the name of the parent class in this case? Bird is the name of the parent class. So copy and paste them here. Is that okay? I hope it's clear. Now, as I said in the theory part, when I was explaining about the inheritance, let me show you here, in case if you have forgotten. I said, when you inherit from existing class, you can reuse the methods and fields of the parent class. Moreover, you can add new methods and fields in your current class also. That is the reason why we can still be able to access these classes from the parent class to the child class. Moreover, if you want to have some more methods and data fields, you can still have them. That is the reason why I have added two more data fields. But if I want to have another method here, still I can have them. So what is the procedure? I would say void, let me say ego fly as a method, right? So inside this method, I would say, let me just copy and paste this system.out.println. So here, instead of flying down, I would say ego is flying. So what does that mean? Since this ego is the child class, bird is the parent class, you can still have your own methods and the data fields are the fields of your own here, right? That's the reason why this one belongs to the child. Even this method belongs to the child, but still this child class can have access for this particular parent class. So to prove that, what I'm going to do here, let me create the main method. I'm going to say public static void main. So inside I'm going to have string, the array of string with an argument, yes. So inside what I'm going to do, so this one is public, right? So inside what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the object for the child class, because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to access the parent class from the child class. So when you create the object here, you have to create the object for the child class, not for the parent class. The reason is we are trying to check whether this child class can able to access the properties and the data fields of the parent class. So when you create the object here, you have to make sure that you are going to create the object for the child class, not for the parent class. So if you want to create the object for the child class, you have to choose the class of the child. Then let's say here E1 as an object, equals, the new is a keyword which helps us to create the memory for the object that we have created them here. Then again we have to call the name of the class, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this object e1 dot, what I'm trying to do them here is I'm just going to call the methods here. So let's say I have the name there, right, from the parent class. Let me call this one name, and then so what I want to print, I just want to print them. So here I'm going to say system dot out println. So inside I'm going to print the name from the parent class, right? So let me just copy and then come here, paste. So instead of name, what I'm going to do is it outer feathering, outer covering, e1 dot, let me just outer covering, right? So what does that mean? So this e1 is the object for the child class, but this name and outer covering are part of the fields from the parent class. Okay, only this outer covering is the data field from the parent class. So even here we have the reproduction. So let us make use of the reproduction. So here what I'm going to do, system.out.println. So e1 dot, let me call reproduction. So what we are trying to do, from the child class we are trying to access the fields from the parent class, because this outer covering and reproduction are the field from the parent class bird, so reproduction and covering. So let's say if you can able to access the methods of this parent class, fly up and fly down. So what does that mean? So here simple, what we are going to do them, here I'm going to say e1 dot, in that case we are just going to call the methods. So eagle fly is from the method from the eagle class, and then e1 dot, is it why fly down or fly, okay, fly down is from the parent class. Again e1 dot, is it fly up? Yes, fly up. I hope you have noticed here I have not used system.out.println because these three methods have already system.out.println. So when I call that method, is going to display the result of the things that are belongs to this system.out.println. You might be surprised. What is the reason behind that you have used system.out.println to print the e1.name, e1.outCovering, e1.reproduction? Remember, if you want to print the values of the fields, you have to use system.out.println, because this name, outer covering and reproduction, they are fields, they are not the methods. So they are fields with the values, right? What I mean to say fields, they are data types. If you want to print the data types, you have to use system.out.println in order to see the values that are assigned to that particular variable. But if you want to print the values from the method, the assumption is within the method there is already a system.out.println which has the message. So we are trying to just print the message. That is the reason why we have not used system.out.println to print the values, right? I hope everything is clear as for now. So simple, this one we have used the concept of inheritance because we are trying to inherit the properties. What do I mean to say properties? We are trying to access the fields and methods of a parent class from child class. So imagine if there is no inheritance. What does that mean? If there is no inheritance, we need to rewrite this code even here in the child class in order to print the details. To avoid that, they introduce the concept of inheritance. That's the reason why we have just created what we need for this class, but still we can able to access the fields and methods from the parent class. So this is what we call them as a code reusability. This is a major use of using the inheritance. Let's see if this one is working. So I'm going to the bird.java. Let me go there. I'm going to run. So as you can see them here, we can able to print everything. First we are trying to print e1.name. This one is a e1.outCovering, e1.reproduction. Then we have called the methods from the parent class. We have called the method from the child class. Eagle is flying. We have called the methods from the parent class, flying down and flying up. No wonder that we can able to print these messages in this order because of the way that we call them in the main method. I hope now you have understood how the inheritance in Java is working, especially when it comes to the code reusability. So we have learned about inheritance and the syntax. We have followed how to create an inheritance. But in inheritance in Java, there are types. So you have learned them in C++. Even in C++, inheritance have some types. First inheritance is a single inheritance. Second inheritance is a multi-level inheritance. Third inheritance is the hierarchical inheritance. So these are all the three inheritance that are found in the Java. I'm sure that you might be surprised because if you have learned C++, you have come across with multiple inheritance. What does that mean, multiple inheritance? When you derive a class from more than two superclasses or more than two parents. For example, let's say the child class has got two parent class, but that child class wanted to access the properties and methods from those two classes. We use multiple inheritance, right? So that multiple inheritance in Java is not supported, because I will show you why is it not supported when you use the classes. Let me make it this one clear. Multiple inheritance in Java is not supported when you use the classes, but when you use the concept of interface, multiple inheritance in Java is allowed. Or I would say when you use the concept of interface, you can able to use the multiple inheritance. So I will show you what does that mean, interface, how to work with multiple inheritance with interface in Java as we move on in this same tutorial. So as for now, there are only three types of inheritance that are found in the Java. First one is a single, second one is a multi-level, third one is a hierarchy. So what is single? Single is nothing but the example that we have seen. So we are going to have a base class. From that base class, we are going to access the properties and methods of this base class into our derived class. Or we can call this one as a parent class, this one is a child class. So example that we have seen them just before now is the example for the single inheritance, because we had one base class or we had one parent class name called birds. Then we can able to access the methods and the properties of this class into our child class called ego, so that we can able to access the properties of this class, right? So that is an example for single inheritance. So single inheritance means when a class inherits another class, it is known as single inheritance. Then the next inheritance is multi-level inheritance. So this one is different. For example, as you can see them in the diagram, is going to have the levels. So what does that mean? We can have the parent class. So I would say this is like your grandfather. From your grandfather, your dad has got the properties and method. Maybe your grandfather built a house, then that house came to your father. Then from that then from your father, you got that house. So this is how multi-level inheritance would work. So let me give you this example so that you would understand how multi-level inheritance would work in Java. I'm sure that you have already seen the single inheritance. Now let me show you the multi-level. So this is an example diagram. From your grandfather, it will reach to your father. From your dad, now you took over the properties, right? So for that, let us see this example so that you can able to understand how multi-level inheritance would work. So here, let me create a new project so that it will be easy. So I'm going to the file, new project, Java application. Okay, so I would call this one as a multi-level. This is multi-level, not multiple, remember, right? So click finish. So here is a multi-level. Go there, go to the source package. Here default package, right click, new, go to the Java class. So create the class that you want to create. So let me say I'm going to create a class as Animo. Okay, click finish. Okay, so here is an animal, right? So here is a class, the first class. I would say this one is grandfather class, the first class. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one method. Let me say void it as a method. I'm not going to have the fields. So here I'm just going to have the system.out.println. So inside I'm just going to pass the message saying eating, right? So this is a parent class. Now if you want to create the child class for this parent class Animo, as usual, what you need to do, you have to create class as a keyword, then you have to have the child class for this animal. Let me call this one as a, what can we say, dog. So this dog is a child class from this parent class animal. So if you want to access the method from this parent class to this child class, what you need to do, simple, we are just going to use extend as a keyword and then from this animal, right? Then from here, what I'm going to do, what we can do, maybe we can just create a method void, since it's a dog it can bark. Here I'm just going to write a message saying, let me just copy and paste them here, barking, I would say barking, right? So this is a parent class. Consider this one as your grandfather, this is your father. Then from there you will come here. So the next one is the next level. So the next level is nothing but another class. Let me call this one as a class. How can we call this one even? Okay, let me call this one as a baby dog. Then this baby dogs is extending, extends as a keyword from where? This class name called dog, right? So inside you can have the method maybe void whip as a method. So here let me just copy and paste for the interest of time. I would say this one is weeping, right? So what we have done, we have the parent class, I mean the superclass. So this superclass, this is a superclass, this is a derived class, because we are deriving the properties and methods from this class Animo. Then this is the next level, we are trying to create another class, and this class is deriving the properties and method from this class. This is multi-level, as you can see them here in the diagram. Base class, derived class A, and derived class B, meaning we are deriving the properties from the class A here we are deriving the properties from class B. What does that mean? At the end of the day, this class C can have the properties, that can have the access to the properties and methods of both class B and A. It's just like you are the grandchild here, you can have the access from the properties from the class B and the class A, right? So being a grandchild, you can have the access to your father's property as well as your grandfather's property. That is what it means, right? So here, if you want to check, you have to create the main method. Let us just create a main method. So what we can do, we can come down here, create a main method. Main method is public static void main. So within this public static void main, so what you need to create an object, right? So which class are you going to create an object for now? You have to create the object for this class, the last class, because we are trying to check, being the last person here in the family, let's say it's me, right? So I am trying to check whether if I can able to access the properties of my parents as well as my grandparent, right? So here I'm just going to create an object for this last class that I have created, baby dog. So let me call this one as a baby, as an object, new keyword to create the memory allocation for this object that I have created for the same class, baby dog. Right now what I'm going to do, baby dot, if I want to access the methods from the first class, the method is eat, right? So I'm just going to call baby dot eat. Then again baby dot weep is another method from my parent class. Then baby dot what is the last one? The last class I have said that barking, bark. Actually, weep is the last one, so let me just place them in order. So this one is from the grandfather class, this is from the parent class, this is from the last child class. So when I save and run, you see I can still able to access the properties and methods from the grandfather's class, from the father's class, as well as from my own class, right? So this is how multi-level inheritance would work in Java. Then the next type, as I said, that is a third one, which is hierarchical inheritance. What does that mean, hierarchical? Maybe if you can see this diagram, I'm sure that you can still able to understand. So hierarchical inheritance is nothing but when two or more classes inherits a single class. So this is like, for example, this is like my father. Maybe these are my siblings, not only me, because even my siblings, even for my siblings, he is my dad, right? So let's say he has got 5 houses. Let's say not 5 houses. Let's say my father has got only 1 house. So being the children of my fathers, me, my sister, and my brother can have the access for that house, right? So this is how hierarchical inheritance would work. So let me show you this simple example for the better understanding. So here what we are going to do, we are just going to make some modification in the same example that we have seen them for the multi-level. So let's have this one as a, so let's consider this one is like my parent class. So this is a first child, right? So there are 3 childs here, 1, 2, 3. So here what I'm going to do, so this dog extend animal, let it be like that. So here I'm just going to create this baby dog. Instead of baby dog, okay, let it be the baby dog, but instead of trying to access the properties of this dog, so this one, even this one, I want to access my father there, right? So it's going to be animal. I hope you understand why I have replaced the dog with animal, because this is a firstborn, this is a secondborn. So the firstborn can have the access to the animal class, even the secondborn can have the access to the same parent class. Even if you want to create another class, as the example shows. So let me say what I can do. Let me just copy and paste them here. So this one, instead of baby dog, I can call this one as a cat. So instead of weep, let me call the method as sound. I'm sure that you know how the cat would make nice meow, right? So let me just say this one as meow, right? So I'm sure that now we have understood what I have done. So what I have done, all I have done here is this. I have got 3 different childs, but all of them are trying to access the value from that parent class. So here in my main class, now where am I going to which one am I going to create the object for? I hope we would have surprised. So which one am I going to create? So anything, for example, here we have removed this part. Let's say I want to create the object for this cat class to check if I can able to access, because here is not necessarily you are going to create object for the specific class. For example, here what I mean is, if you want to check whether if this class can have access to this class, in that case you are going to create the object for this class. In case if you want to check that this class C can have the access to this class A, you are just going to create the object for the class C. If you think of creating an object for the class C and trying to access the class B, it's not possible, because there is no connection. You are allowed to access the properties and methods from the class A only. From this class C, if you try to access the value from the class B, do you think that it's possible? It's not possible. Let me show you. So here I have the class name as cat. I'm going to create object C1 is equal to new cat, right? From this object C1, if I want to access to the class animal, the method is eat1. Yes, I can able to access. Let me say eat. There is no error. When I run, this one would work. You see eating. But With this object C1, let's say I'm trying to access the method from the dog, which means bark. As soon as I put bark, you find that there is a big fat error. What is the reason? So let me explain you here. It's like, though they are my siblings, this person can't come to my house and claim my house is his house. No, he has got no rights, because that house is my personal. That one belongs to my family, not to my siblings, right? But as long as this house is built by my father, so being a sibling, this person and this person can have the rights to access this house, but not my house. That's the reason why it's giving us big fat error here. So even if you want to access the method from that class, like let's say weep, do you think that is going to give us the result? No, even this one is also going to give us the big fat error, because this person is not allowed to access the methods from my siblings. Maybe you are only allowed to access the methods from my parent, but not my own property. Yes, we are all siblings. We are allowed to access the house from my father, but from our father, but you have got no rights to have any access to my personal house, right? So that is what it means. So this is how hierarchical inheritance would work. Then, as I said, multiple inheritance, in the sense this class is going to derive from two parent class. So this one is not allowed in Java with the classes, but this one is allowed in Java with a method name called interface. So we are going to learn about interface in the later part of the session. Now let me show you why this one is not work in Java with the classes. So here what I am going to do, okay, so maybe let me see if I can modify something here for us to understand, right? So Animo, let this one be like that. So let me create dark class. Let me remove this part. Okay. Okay, so here let me remove this part, because so here you can see this one is a separate class and this one is a separate class. Why do I what do I mean to say separate class? Because this dog, I have removed the extend keyword, meaning it's not inheriting anything from anywhere. So this one is a separate class. This class dog is also a separate class, right? Just like this. So this one is a separate class, this one is a separate class. So this class, what we are trying to do, we are trying to inherit from class A and class B. So for that, what we need to do, so here we are going to say class baby dog is a class C, extends is going to extend from animals, comma, and then it's going to extend from dog. As soon as I put extend animal comma dog, is giving us a big fat error, because multi-level inheritance is not allowed in Java when you use the classes like this. I'm sure that if you try the same in C++, it would work. But in Java, when you use the class for the multiple inheritance, not multi-level, multiple inheritance, it will give us the big fat error. But these issues can be solved with the help of the method name called interface in Java, so that we can still have a multiple inheritance. I will show you towards the end of this session, so that you understand how to use the interface, especially to have a multiple inheritance. As for now, all you need to do, we only have three inheritance: single, multi-level, hierarchy, right? So we don't have multiple inheritance in Java unless if you use interface as a method, right? I hope now you have understood what is inheritance, what is the role of inheritance in Java programming.